What's up my loves, my name is Paige, this is Paige with Paige, and today we're going to be doing my July and August wrap up. Hello my darlings, welcome to this video. Today I'm going to be doing my July and August wrap up. We have 40 books to talk about, so I'm going to film this in two parts. The first being July wrap up and then my August wrap up, because I also want to have dinner at some point tonight. So I know that I could just split this into two videos. Choices were made, clear. So I will talk through my July wrap up stats and then talk about the July books, and then we will have a break and then talk about the August stats and books. So in July I read 13 books, which equated to 4,920 pages, which equated to about 159 pages per day and 378 pages per book. I acquired one new book. I had an average rating of 4.08. I listened to 54.5 hours of audiobook. In terms of genres, I had one classic, one contemporary, 6 fantasy, 1 mystery, 1 non-fiction, 2 romances, and 1 sci-fi. I had 8 pure audiobooks, 1 physical book, and 4 audio-physical combinations. I read 1 middle grade, 4 new adult, and 8 adult titles. 9 of these I had read from the author before, with 4 of them being new to me. I had 1 2-star, 2 3.5 stars, 3 4 stars, 6 4.5 stars, and 1 5-star. I read 5 standalones, 2 starts of series, 1 I did decide to DNF, 3 continuations in series, and I caught up in 3 series as well. I had 2 books in the hundreds page range, 1 in the 200s, 4 in the 300s, 4 in the 400s, 1 in the 500s, and 1 in the 700s. I read 2 2025 acquisitions, 3 backlist books, 7 from the library, and then 1 other. So for my wrap-ups this year, we are going from lowest to highest rated instead of chronological. So for my lowest rated, I'm not surprised, but it was Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky, which came out as a 2 stars. I will leave the CAWPILE ratings in the description box below, just so then you can see what the numbers were and how they ended up at this point. I was reading this for a challenge and did not give 2 flying fucks. I was reading it to read it. I remember there was an axe right at the beginning, and then my care factor just stopped. So I know that there was a lot of philosophy on morality and various forms of that, but I couldn't muster the fucks to care. So I did a thing. I did a chunky thing, and this is now over. The next book was The Saviour's Champion by Jenna Moresi. I read this for Season-a-thon and I enjoyed it enough. I felt that it was a good book, but maybe I wasn't the target demographic, as I did find I struggled to get into the events that were occurring and I didn't really have any emotional connection with the characters. I still really enjoyed the fantasy and the plot twist at the end was really interesting, but I don't think I'm going to continue on with this series. Just I have other things I would rather read over this. Next up I have A Pirate's Life at Tea by Rebecca Thorne, and gave this a 3.5. This was a cozy fantasy. It was delightful, and that was all that I had from it. I really enjoyed seeing our characters and their relationship dynamics, but I didn't feel like there was enough. I just wanted more from it, and I think for me, cozy fantasy I enjoy, but I need to have just a little bit more stakes, a little bit more something, a little bit more grit. I know that cozy is cozy for a reason, but I feel like you can have a balance for this, and this just didn't hit it how I needed it to, but it was still good. Then I have Binti Home by Nadia Korofo, which I gave 4 stars. This was such a interesting little novella as we're continuing on from the events of Binti. I did myself a disservice. I'm going to go back and reread the series back to back to back. They are so short that it is definitely doable. I felt like there was enough of a recap to sort of go back into what was happening, since the last time I read Binti, I think it was 2018. So I definitely needed a little bit more guidance, but I enjoy seeing Binti's character and how she continues to explore her world and the various elements of it, and seeing where she ended up dealing with the things that she was dealing with was really interesting, and I really enjoyed that. Then I have Stories Out West, which is a collection of 17 writers, 17 stories. This is a collection of voices of First Nations and culturally diverse LGBTQIA+ storytellers from Western Sydney. I gave this 4 stars. There are so many different stylistic choices and writers within this, so it was really interesting to see how they all connected to sort of their experiences. And being Western Sydney, whilst it's not where that I've lived, I definitely know and can appreciate it, so that was really cool hearing First Nations voices talking about their experiences with an area that I'm familiar with. And yeah, I thought it was really interesting. I do feel like I would have liked the flow of the stories to work better, but that is just the chances you take with a short story collection. Everyone does have a unique writing voice, so they're not always going to flow. That's why it wasn't a full 5 stars, but it was still really interesting to read. Then we have The Last Devil to Die by Richard Osman, which is the 4th in the Thursday Murder Club series, and I had a lot of fun with this. Again, 4 stars. I made the mistake of just trying to listen to the audiobook of this rather than read alongside it, because I missed a few key moments that would have had a lot more of an emotional resonance with me. I do definitely love these characters and was heartbroken at some of the progression of this plot, but actually hearing it, I was like, wait, hold up, I missed so much stuff. So it was still really enjoyable. I just know that I could have had more of an emotional resonance with it if I had been immersion reading this instead. The Thursday Murder Club is following a group of old people who solve murders, and we have definitely gone well beyond just the initial premise, but I absolutely love this friend group, and it is always so comforting to come back to. Next up, I have Caught Up by Nevessa Allen, which I gave a 4.5 stars. This is what I needed to read. This is just where my brain was at. It was a silly, goofy time. It was just so unhinged, but so good. We are following a different couple than in Lights Out, and I'll be curious to see where the next one, what couple we follow for that. I enjoyed our couple. They were not as intense as the first, but there was so many little comments back to the first one as well, which just made it so fun to read. It was just no brain, all the good energy, chaotic vibes that I wanted. Then I have Tenderly I Am Devoured by Lyndall Clipstone, and gave this a 4.5 as well. This is an Australian author, which was so cool to be able to read, and it was so atmospheric. I really enjoyed it for that element of it. There was a lot of dynamics in it that I was also very fascinated by, and I think that the overall premise of this woman making a deal with a chthonic demon, yeah, we had some good times. We had a lot of good times. I really just went into this for the vibes, and it absolutely delivered, and it definitely made me giggle so much, but in like that sort of, I know I shouldn't be laughing at this, but these little moments are just top tier. Then I have Leather and Lark by Bryn Weaver. Can we tell I was also reading this for a romance readathon, but yes, okay, like the vibes. Exactly what I needed. So good, so funny. I remember driving down to the puzzle competition listening to this book and just absolutely going, oh my god, I should not be listening to this while driving. I swear to god, I hope no one can hear this coming through my speakers. I was absolutely blushing, and then towards the end when we were getting way more serious, I was like trying not to cry. I was just like, y'all don't know what you're doing to me. And I do think it's really interesting where we're going and where we went with like the big bad. It was, So I'll be curious to see where the last book goes in this trilogy, but it was just the perfect time for me to embrace the chaotic energy that was this story. I can't remember if I said, but Leather and Lark, Tenderly I Am Devoured, and Caught Up I gave 4.5 stars. Then the next book I have is The Dead Romantics by Ashley Preston, which I gave 4.5 stars. I really love this. I thought this was so cute. The irony of a ghostwriter with a ghost, it worked. It hit me in the feelings, like I genuinely cried. I really just loved seeing Florence come back into herself, find the joy that was meant to be in her life. And I also really enjoyed exploring grief and how the family dynamics all happened with that as well. Then I'm going to talk about the next two together because they are the next two rated of The Tainted Cup and A Drop of Corruption, both by Robert Jackson Bennett. I really love these. I haven't fallen in love with the characters in the same way that I fell in love with the Foundry side characters, but I do love Anna and Din. They are just chaotic creatures at their absolute core. The mysteries in these are both very interesting, and I do feel like we have a lot of room to grow and explore in this series, so I will be surprised if there's only a third one. I would expect there to be more in this series given the foundations that we have laid. I was reading The Tainted Cup when I got stuck trying to get back home after the puzzle comp, so I was really flustered and very aggravated. So having this on actually did help soothe the nerves because I just love Robert Jackson Bennett's writing. I was giggling at points. It was exactly what I needed. And then A Drop of Corruption I did read while I was overseas, so I didn't get to immersion read it, which was a choice, but it was interesting seeing what tidbits come out of this one, and we continued to get to know our characters more. But I did absolutely have a wonderful time. It's just I haven't had the same emotional resonance with the characters, which is what's holding me back from a full 5-star read. But they're so fun and so stunning. And then my top rated book, which I think, yeah, The Dead Romantics, A Drop of Corruption, The Tainted Cup, and this one all technically came out the same in CAWPILE, but this was my 5-star read, and that was my reread of Matilda by Roald Dahl. Every year I reread this. It's either in July or it's in October, and this year was July. I love this story. It makes me just so happy, and it feels like coming home every time that I pick it up. I really just adore seeing each iteration of the times that I read it and where I'm at and what I'm doing and how it resonates with me. So I had so much fun just falling back in this world. It is so easy and quick. I put it on and went for a walk around, saw some cows. Yeah, had a good time. It is hitting a point where I could probably start quoting this verbatim, but you know, I've got a couple more rereads up my belt before that fully starts to happen. So this is the stack that I read in July. I've really enjoyed using placeholders to just see how much it was. So I'm gonna go call Ash, have some dinner, reset the system, and hopefully come back tonight. Otherwise, if I've changed outfits, I'm filming this next section tomorrow. So see you in a sec. Redo them. Thank you. The bottom half is out of frame, I think. There we go, that looks perfect. Thank you. Okay, she's fed. Let's see how this goes. I probably will also rapid fire through these just because I don't have enough brain cells left for this. So my August stats. I read 27 books, which totaled to 10,430 fucking 8 pages. Did I say in March that I was never going to repeat this, and then in April did the same fucking thing and now added an extra 4,000 pages? I did nothing. There were no videos on my channel. I didn't edit. I barely posted it on the Patreon. I just read a fuck ton, because this equates to 337 pages a day and the equivalency of 386 pages per book. So I wasn't reading short shit either. I acquired 3 new books. I had a 3.78 average rating, which is fair enough considering some of the things I was challenging myself to do. I listened to 105.5 hours. I don't even want to know. So if someone in the comments would like to tell me how much that was of September that I listened to shit, that'd be great. I read 2 classics, 2 contemporary, 10 fantasy, 2 horror, 3 manga, 1 non-fiction, 1 poetry, 4 romances, 1 sci-fi, and 1 thriller. I listened to 13 pure audiobooks because damn did I fall down a RuneScape rabbit hole and was just playing that and like doing shit on the computer just to keep my hands occupied while listening to an audiobook? Yes. I read 5 ebooks, which is nuts. I hate reading ebooks, but we did it. I had 2 audiobook and ebook combinations and 7 physical audio combos. This, I think, is one of the very rare times that I have more audiobooks than audio physical combined, which is weird. But it's how I got through this. I read 1 middle grade, that was it, 6 young adult, 3 new adult, and 17 adult titles. 12 of these were authors I'd read from before, and 15 were new to me authors. I had 1 2-star, 6 3-stars, 7 3.5 stars, 6 4 stars, 3 4.5s, and 4 5 stars. I read 11 standalones. I read 10 starts of series. 2 of those were manga, which I'm not sure I'm going to continue on with, and 3 of those I have DNF straight out of the gate. I read 3 continuations in series. I read 1 that caught me up and 2 that finished off the series. I had 1 book in the 100s page range. I had 5 in the 200s, 9 in the 300s, 7 in the 400s, 4 in the 500s, and 1 in the 600s. So I didn't read too many more bigger things, but still. I read 3 2025 acquisitions, 1 through Audible, 5 backlist titles, 12 from my library, 3 NetGalley books, and 3 other. Can I remember what those others are? No. Were they probably the manga that I just managed to source online? Probably. So, I apologize. I am going to go rather quickly through these. It's just, I am in awe that this happened. I also completed 27 readathons, so the equivalency of 1 book a readathon. My lowest rated for the month was Go Down with Moses by William Faulkner, which I gave 2 stars. For this, I'm just not the target demographic for this at all. I pushed through because it was a group read for a readathon, and I did it. I've read it. Did I enjoy it? Not particularly. Was there some elements of it that were decent? Yes. Was it a particular YouTube channel, the Codex Cantina, I think? Apologies for mispronunciation. That actually made this slightly more enjoyable? Also yes. Then I had Zoo by James Patterson and Michael Ledwidge, which I gave 3 stars. This was for Gub August, and look, I'm surprised I rated it 3 stars because I definitely thought it was going to be lower. I wasn't going to read this. I was going to read Rivals by Julie Cooper, I think, and then it was 600 pages and an ebook. This had an audiobook and was significantly shorter, so I decided to go for it. It was actually kind of fun. Not great, and there was some commentary that I wish had have just gone further because we are also looking at an environmental crisis. We could have kept going with that narrative, and we didn't, but that's okay. The protagonist Oz in this is also a misogynistic pig, which, like, not my vibe, but I think the way that the animals ended up going were really interesting to see the repercussions for that. Also, the reasoning behind it was just like, okay, boomer. But yeah, it was a fun time while I was reading it. Am I probably going to forget that I read it by the end of the year? Yeah, absolutely. Next up, I have Love Flush by Evie Mitchell, which I also gave 3 stars, and I am gutted about, but I just didn't vibe with the male love interest in this. There were some things that were said that I was like, bro, seriously? Like, in the context of second chance romance, and he's like, I know what you like, you're gonna say yes eventually. And I'm like, ugh! So I loved All Access. I love the disability representation in it because it is following our female love interest who has Crohn's and the consequences of that, and like she becomes a toilet paper business because shit happens, and like that was peak beautiful, wonderful. Why I gave this 3 stars. I could have happily slapped our male love interest into the next century though, so unfortunately I just didn't vibe with the characters and I was so gutted by it. Then I have What Did You Eat Yesterday volume 1 by Fumi Yoshinaga, and again this was a 3-star read. I am genuinely surprised is because of CAWPILE that it came out as a higher rating than Love Flushed, because so many things about this gave me the ick. I found out about boy love manga and all of that, and honestly I am so excited to see Kirsty from K-Beth Bookish's little conversation video on it, because I have so many issues with it and the way that it was so toxic towards male-male relationships. I was just like, is this okay? This is happening? I was giving it the benefit of the grace because, you know, it's a new area to me. I'm not overly familiar with it, but it was just this two males relationship, and one of them is really good at cooking, really likes to cook, but it was very stereotypical and made me feel really weird. It's one of those ones that I still need to think and consume more understanding on. Then I have Stoneblind by Natalie Haynes, which I also gave 3 stars. I really love, well, I don't love the story of Medusa, but I find Medusa a very fascinating character to see their perspective of. And this had more perspectives than I could point a hot stick at. Like, I don't even know how many it tallied up to be. And some of them were just so man-bashy and like screeching in your face about how much of a fuckwit Perseus is, which, yeah, he is, but you can do it in a way that's tactful rather than screechy, feministy, man-bashy sort of way, and I definitely know which one I prefer to be privy to. It's not that I don't think that screaming in your face feminist is bad, just wasn't the right way to go about this for me, to find it to be done tastefully, and we just had way too many perspectives for it. I did enjoy seeing Medusa, and the way that we talk about her after the event was quite fascinating, and I really enjoyed that element of it, where it was quite just like, want to burn the world down? And fair, that was valid. So I really enjoyed that component of it, but I do think that a lot of it got lost with having so many voices and doing so many different things, having quite a few different plot points that we were trying to weave together, and it just didn't go in the way that I have enjoyed from Natalie Haynes in the past. Then I had Little House on the Prairie by Laura Ingalls Wilder, and gave this 3 stars. This was like a fun 3 stars because I never read anything about it. I do know that this is the 3rd or 4th in the series, but you really don't need to have read the prior ones to be able to get an understanding. Like, it does give you enough context on who the family is, what's happening, and where we're going. I did just like seeing them sort of branch out and build their own little house, and the different challenges that came along with the various resources that were available. There was also interesting commentary on the Indigenous people and the way that they were being treated, and I enjoyed seeing the dad challenge those beliefs. Whilst it's not perfect, I definitely think that I've read things that were way worse, and it was just getting to hear her story. So I found it really cute. It wasn't anything that's going to stick with me, but I'm not mad that I read it, but I'm not going to read anything else in this series unless it's fulfilling a particular problem for a readathon. Then we have Heavenly Tyrant by Jiran J. Zhao, which I also gave 3 stars to. I'm so disappointed in myself for this because I just didn't care. I really struggled to get into it. I was reading it towards the end of the month, I was on holidays, and this is a story that requires some thought because there is a lot of amazing commentary, but it went straight over my head. I also think that I said that I liked I Am Widow more than I actually feel like I did. I wasn't as critical as a reader at that point, and I just don't do like giant mechas. Like, when people were like, it's Pacific Rim, I'm like, that has 0 appeal to me. I don't care about this at all. And whilst I enjoyed seeing how we explored a particular relationship and the way that that was navigated, that was the redeeming elements for me, and I don't feel like that's the point. So I am more mad at myself for not being able to immerse myself in the way that I should have to be able to enjoy this more. I might not still have enjoyed it as much it might just be one of those things. I'll still continue on with the series and see how the third one goes, because it is no longer a duology, it is a trilogy. I hope it stays as a trilogy. I do think we can wrap this up. I do think this would have been a pretty shitty ending because we still have so much more to learn. So yeah, it might be second book syndrome, it could have been the way that I read it, but I acknowledge that this is a really awesome book for those that really like content. I just don't have any drive into it, so we'll see what happens with the third one. Then I read On or Off Volume 1 by A1 and gave this a 3.5. I enjoyed this story more than What Did You Eat Yesterday, so there was a lot more to it that I could get behind. I still feel like it really had toxic elements to the relationship, and oh my god, trying to read this while my mother was standing behind me was absolutely petrifying. Do not recommend. Do not read this with your parents around. It's not worth it because damn. So there was an element of comedy happening alongside it in my own reading experience. I was also reading it just via ebook on my phone, which is not the like way that I enjoy to read, but overall I am curious to see where we go in the next 3 volumes after this, but I do hope that the relationship becomes a bit more positive and a little less toxic. I liked the premise of it. I like that one of our main characters is thrust into becoming a spokesperson for very socially awkward video game designers, and that dynamic, and actually wanting to like help them grow and be better people as well. But yeah, the like power dynamic, I'm like, I don't know how I feel about this, but it was a good time. Then I read Brightly Burning by Alexa Donne and gave this a 3.5. This is Jane Eyre in space, and it's inspired by. I see a lot of potential in Alexa's writing. I really liked the characters and the way that their dynamic was explored, how they went about retelling different elements of Jane Eyre without making it one and the same. The class difference was really interesting to see develop, and I really like Sergio. So I think there's a lot of potential in Alexa's writing and really had a good time with it. Jane Eyre isn't like one of my favorite classics. I've read it once, so I don't feel like you have to be intimately acquainted with the story. It's probably better if you're not to get more out of this, but the sci-fi elements was pretty cool. I did enjoy when we were on a ship that had more of an exploration of gravity rather than it just being assumed, but it was interesting to see how that all shaped up. Then I read Seasonal Fears by Shauna Maguire and also gave this a 3.5. Again, similar to I Am Widow, I don't think I liked Middle Game as much as I thought I did. I don't think I disliked it, but holy fuck, this is some big brain reads, and yeah, I don't feel like I enjoyed Harry and Mel's characters as much. Unfortunately, in this one, they just felt a little bit flat, and like literally Harry at one point was going, this is hurting my brain, and I was sitting there going, yeah, me too, mate. So the story and where we end up was interesting. I'm curious to see what other elements that we follow and how that all ties in with everything, but there was a lot of like teenage angst, and I'm just like, can we not? I understand that your girlfriend thought she was gonna die for most of her life, but let's do something a little less angsty, please. But always, like, the personification of summer and winter was just so interesting. I loved getting to see some characters briefly from Middle Game, but we are definitely following a different set of people, and the way that it's explored is very different to Middle Game as well. But we still have our alchemists and them causing fucking chaos, because why could humans not? And then the read that I probably hate myself the most for enjoying as much as I did was Dick Fight Island by Reuben Ike. Again, should not read near your mother. Do not do it. It is not worth the mental anguish and the phone gymnastics you have to do, because there is not a single safe page on this. I gave it a 3.5, and that genuinely surprised the shit out of me, because I did not expect to like this. The premise of it is a competition where people are trying to do things and they have to shield a particular body part to stop the thing from occurring. So then they unhide the body parts to do the thing, and it's all very gay. It was a ride, it was an experience. I'm not actually mad that I read it. Do I want to read the second one? In some really sadistic, twisted way, so I feel like this is going to, if Suffer-a-thon happens, end up for Suffer-a-thon for me. So that's great. I will make sure my mother is not around when that is occurring to just make my life easier. Was it a weird little thing? Yeah. Did I actually enjoy the like relationship dynamics that got introduced? Yeah. It was a fun, really smutty time, and not in the same way of my usual smut, so it was a learning curve, but that's okay. Next up, I have Autobiography by Christina Lauren. Again, 3.5 stars. I enjoyed this. I definitely think I have phased out of YA, but I liked getting to see Tanner and his sort of exploration in his like religious understanding. It was very meta in what Tanner is writing about, and being in like a creative writing course over the summer and falling for one of the tutors that is like his age and dealing with the love interest that is a Mormon, and how you go about navigating those beliefs and the way that people have to come to things on their own terms. There was a lot of the teenage angst, which I expected. It still doesn't make it any more enjoyable to read as an adult for me. I know that some people still love YA, I still love YA, it's just I'm noticing there's a particular trend in my reading where I just want YA that's like fun, not angst driven, I suppose. But I do think that this would be an excellent read for teenagers who are exploring their sexuality. Then I have The Fall of the House of Usher and Other Stories by Edgar Allan Poe, and gave this a 3.5 stars. It was hard to rate this because there were some stories that I really liked, there were some that I didn't, and I was also listening to the versions of this that were on Audible, so I was skipping over chapters that were not the stories in this collection, and I wasn't reading it straight through. I was jumping all around as I was following the audiobooks stories that were mentioned, so I think I did it a disservice in that. But there was a lot that happened. As some of them were a lot creepier than others. Others were like, what is happening? I'm very lost. And I did enjoy that some of the stories did have interconnections between themselves. Not all of them. It is a very select few that do. But I did feel like that helped the flow of the narrative, because we could get to see a difference throughout rather than just hopscotching between each one. And I will be really curious to see the adaptation of The Telltale Heart. So it was good, just not like fully my vibe. I definitely liked The Raven more than I liked this collection, but that's all good. And then the last one for that fucking stack is The Wicked Remain by Laura Poll. Again, 3.5. Finished off the series. This was one that was haunting my NetGalley so extremely that it was about time. And we are continuing to follow the Grimos girls, who are 4 girls that have found this book of fairy tales that tell out how their story should go. With this being the conclusion to the duology, it's like there's only so much I can even talk about, but I really enjoyed how their stories went. The way that Laura Poll discussed having your agency in your own narrative, and the way that each of the characters' stories, from what we know them to be, how they got interwoven into the ending. I really enjoyed that. So it was also like the lack of communication with teenagers, just I did remember that the Grimrose Girls, the first one, had a lot more cattiness in it, so it was really nice to not have that. Did they learn to communicate better? Not really, but that's okay. It didn't have the like bitchiness, and you could feel that each of the friends was actually a friend at one point, but I do find that their narrative voices were really similar, and it was very hard to differentiate between the different characters. That was the placeholders for that. Then I read the collected poems by T.S. Eliot and gave this 4 stars. I genuinely surprised myself with how much I enjoyed this. I fully expected this to be like go down Moses' level of success. But no, I really had a fun time with it. I listened to a few while flying back from Bali, and I had the subtitles on and Ash was reading along being like, fuck is happening? But I was also listening to a version of one of the poems that was done by Jeremy Irons, and like I could listen to Jeremy Irons narrate a shopping list and be happy. So that was a really good option for me to consume it that way. I didn't love the Alfred love story of whatever. That just wasn't my favorite, but that's okay. And then we had my favorite actually being the Cats version, and I am now kind of curious to actually watch Cats the musical, not the movie that did appallingly, but the actual musical. I feel like I could find that very funny. There was definitely some outdated ways and stereotypes, but acknowledging that of its time, it did good. It was just funny, and I think I needed that in my reading, and when I read it, it just worked. So very surprised at how much I did enjoy this. Then I did it. I bit the bullet and I read Dungeon Crawler Cull by Matt Dinniman, and I'm giving this 4 stars. Sorry, I ended up buddy reading this for my Patreon, and I do think that the audiobook also made this experience better, but there were elements of this which Leandra from the TBR Zero really went into a lot more depth in, but I went in being aware of them, that the way that the portrayal of a Latinx woman was in this was completely unacceptable. I don't know why people are singing the praises as much of this without also realizing that there is a lot of superficial and very like not okay shit occurring. I know that it's like a fun goofy time, turn off lit RPG, like this is a video game. It doesn't mean that video games have to be sexist. So I found that scene really off-putting. Also doesn't help that I have a phobia of vomit, Ash has a phobia of cockroaches. Combine the two in here. It was not a fun time for me to listen to. Yeah, it was only one section, but there was also then going and looking at what the Spanish translations was of what this woman was saying, and it broke my heart. But because I don't think that people go and look at it, I didn't see it in the text. I was listening to the audiobook at the time, but I don't know if it's on page. It wasn't in the audiobook, and so that was really disappointing. But as a fun video game, absolutely delivered in spades. I loved Princess. I loved the way that it was like introduced and how Carl's character ended up having their role assigned. That was hilarious. I do think it will be quite interesting, and I'm praying that there is a deeper commentary that goes on in the next couple of books in the rest of the series, because I can see the potential for it. It was just really hard to vibe 100% with it in this one, because it is so well loved, and I'm like, oh, okay, why are we not discussing that it's not completely infallible? I do find that it was, outside of the moments that I didn't vibe with, very funny, and I got back into RuneScape, so I was having a great time feeling the similar vibes with the goblins and everything. Yeah. It was a silly goofy time, but I also think there is room for criticism in it. Stay, Cole. Go, stay. Next up, I have Odin's Child by Siri Pedersen, which I gave 4 stars as well. This is also like, you need to be switched on and following this with Nordic mythology. I really enjoyed a lot of elements to it, but big brain. Big brain was required. It is not little brain. Sir, can you fuck off? I'm trying to film at 9 o'clock at night. You should not be making that much noise. I do think it was really interesting seeing our protagonist and the way that they are perceived and getting to explore more elements of the world. So this does have a lot of foundation, being the first in a epic fantasy series, and I do think it's a really interesting bridge on YA and new adult. I still classified it as YA, but there is very much elements of the grandiose, the expansive world building, which I could also broach into the new adult age genre as well. Then I read The 7 Year Slip by Ashley Poston, so I finally caught back up on my Ashley Poston books that I owned. I still have the ones that have been released recently that I haven't read, but I just love Ashley Poston's writing. Gave this a 4 stars. Listened to this while my dad was driving us back from Sydney back home, and I was trying not to cry in the car. I'm pretty sure I failed at that, because the way that Clementine was with her aunt and just the way that that was all explored was so beautiful. I really loved the male love interest in this as well. He was just so fucking straight-laced, but not, and I don't want to say too much because I think that just getting to experience this was so delightful, because I didn't know. I know that falls in love with a guy that's 7 years in the past, and you can put things together, but the way that it was handled was so well done. And then just seeing her in her work and losing that passion for what she felt and coming out of that and re-exploring her love for painting and for travel, just absolutely beautiful. So I recommend just going in fairly blind if you do have some triggers towards grief, loss, and that sort of component and the way that people could die. Maybe check out trigger warnings, but otherwise I thought this was just so beautiful, so wholesome, a good, nice little vibe. Then I read Delicious Monsters by Lizelle Sambury and gave this 4 stars as well. We are following 2 different perspectives, Daisy and Brittany's, and I found myself way more engaged with Daisy's perspective rather than Brittany's, and there was a relationship dynamic that just felt a little off in Brittany's, and I don't know why, but it just didn't click for me in the same. But Daisy's chapters also made me fucking petrified because of particular things that happen, and the way they're described freaked me the fuck out. But it was so well done, I was invested in it, I was mind tripping left, right and center, and we just get to explore this story of this house and the girls that are around, giving voice to those forgotten girls. And I just thought the way that it was so well done, mind fucking disturbing, but great. And yeah, I really enjoyed getting to see both perspectives and the way that they are struggling as BIPOC individuals and the growth that occurs for that, and just all the conversations were really, really good. And it was just a very atmospheric read, and that's sort of what I went in wanting, and that's what I came out with. It was just the vibes. Then I have Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by B.E. Schwab, which I gave 4 stars. I enjoyed 2 out of the 3 perspectives we have in here because of particular elements that I just still have to unpack. I found that our modern day perspective was really interesting in like how you would respond in this situation, and I'm like, yeah, that would be me. That's definitely 100% how I would respond to everything that's happening. And our second perspective was a lot more exploring the era of suitors and then making your own path. Each perspective we're following is really about self-empowerment, and I think that pitching it as toxic lesbian vampires is accurate in its basis form, which will get people in, but I feel like, and I did this comparison earlier on Sprints a couple of days ago, but comparing it to Gideon the Ninth as lesbian necromancers in space, it's buzzwords. It's designed to pull you in to sell it, but it doesn't really give you, it is what it's about, but there's so much more to it, and we could be pitching it differently, because for me, I would love to hear a story about self-empowerment of women that are taking for their own in time frames that were not readily accepted for a woman to be someone that desired more. And I feel like that would have pitched it to me with the expectations accordingly. I was expecting more toxicity, but maybe my expectations for toxic are just, they're interesting. So it was a good read. I'm glad that I read it. I can't wait to unpack it with my book club in real life. So I have lots of thoughts, and I'll be curious to see how I find it after being able to unpack some of those a little bit more. Then I read The Prison Healer by Lynette Noni, and I gave this a 4.5 stars. I really had fun with this. Has this been sitting on my shelves since I don't know when, coming 2021? Oh fuck, yeah. Did I finally get to it? Yeah. Did I really enjoy it? Yeah. I thought that Kiva was hilarious in the sense of she's doing everything to preserve herself and be able to continue to help people, but she is just so, like, I can't get attached to people. Oh fuck, I'm attached. And I'm like, yeah bro, same. The trials that are in this were really interesting, although it was, you know, having those elements of YA fantasy where the support is the thing that actually makes it occur rather than natural internal capabilities. But it was interesting to witness and I had a lot of fun. It didn't require too much thought, but it did delve into some really deep and complex topics. So I'm really excited to be able to continue with this series and see where we grow. And I think I now understand why people love Lynette Noni so much. So very happy that I read this. Then I have Well Matched by Jen DeLuca, which I gave 4.5 stars, which was great because the second one wasn't exactly my favorite. I really like our protagonists in these. They are just a ball of fun. It is on the premise of fake dating and I really enjoyed, like, it's just like, hey, I need a mature lady to make me look serious. Do you want to do it? And she goes, yeah, sure. And then the chemistry, and I'm like, I'm here for this. There was a little bit more Renaissance fair, which made me happy. There was house renovations. It's just, it was good. I loved seeing the male love interest get to know his worth and have someone stand up for him. It was just like, yeah. And I was really happy just to see their relationship foster. There were moments of miscommunication and just shitty communication, but that's what happens. People. There wasn't a whole lot of angst in this. It was more just finding each other and coming to terms and being accepting in yourself and others. Next up, I have Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez, which I also gave a 4.5 stars. Allie has some shit that she needs to work through, and Daniel was an absolute fucking cinnamon roll to the point that I don't know if I can deal with that level of cinnamon roll. If they were at that level of cinnamon roll, I would yeet myself out of there. I need a little bit more splash of dark and broody. But their relationship was one that I wanted to root for. You know, there is an element of that they can't be together because there is such difference in their classes and the way that, you know, people need to advocate for themselves. I did really enjoy seeing Allie come into her own and figure out what she did want. The language around that was a little interesting, but is what it is. I also really found it so heartening seeing the emotional abuse and the way that she talks about it and the way that it was accepted. There were some really powerful quotes from her friends. I loved Brie, her best friend. Like, I hope that I can be Brie for my friends. And Daniel, he just had his own shit, but he was just doing the best that he could, and it was definitely, you know, two different worlds trying to make it work. Girl, get your fucking priorities in order. Then I have Everything is Tuberculosis by John Green, which I gave 5 stars. This was just great. It was like listening to a Vlogbrothers video for an extended period of time. John just gives the history of tuberculosis and how it relates back to the most mundane of things and how everything can relate back, which it's just, I know that's a topic of passion and you can feel that, you can just soak in it and learn stuff along the way. I think that he has a really powerful writing voice, obviously with his catalogue as well, which I adore. So it was just really a good informative time that felt sciencey but without being beaten over the head by it, because there is a lot of anecdotal stuff that he mentions and it makes it such a pleasant reading experience for what feels like narrative nonfiction. Then I have Once a Villain by Vanessa Len, which is the conclusion to the Monsters trilogy, and I was screaming at this ending. I am so happy where this went. This is the kind of YA angst that I can deal with because we do have some serious fucking stakes. I do understand and appreciate that time is an element of this that has always been fairly convenient, but I do think it was handled quite well, and I just was very happy with where we ended this story. I don't want to say spoilers. Yes, made my heart extremely happy. And I am very happy to have finished off this trilogy. It has surprised me with how much I've loved it. We are following monsters who have the ability to time travel by taking human life. Just by like tapping them, you can get some years. It's not taking their life unless you take all of their remaining life, so you just, you know, take a year off here or there. And then shit has gone astronomically wrong by this book. Then I have A Natural History of Dragons by Marie Brennan. I'm so happy I finally picked up this series. I am ecstatic. This is exactly what I wanted. Please give me old women writing their biography or memoir in the way that is fucking absolutely hilarious. I loved just being able to be consumed in this world, feeling for Lady Trent as she goes to do her life's passion, which is study dragons. The way that her husband is just, ha, I was in my feelings. I had a wonderful, wonderful time with it. I can't wait to continue on with the series. It's just a good, wholesome fantasy read. There's stakes, but it's not like intense, and she's just existing as a woman in a time period that didn't allow for women to express an interest in science, and she just does it. I really enjoyed it, and I can't wait to see where we go with the rest of the series. And then I feel like I've been filming for over an hour, which I probably have been. I think we're sitting at about an hour and a half. The top read for this ginormous reading event was My Friends by Frederick Backman, which I obviously gave 5 stars to. I really love this. I was in my feelings. I cried into my sushi. We are following a girl who loves this one particular piece of art because it has been her rock throughout a very tumultuous life, and we get to see a little bit more of the story behind that artwork. My heart broke in so many different ways, and I do feel like there are elements of it that people aren't going to enjoy. I don't really care about art shit, but this made me care about art. I don't care like about teenagers as much in the angsty, like this is angsty teenagers, but it's done in a way that felt palatable. But we get to see the story behind a picture and what that meant for the people involved, what the picture was, and capturing those moments. Also the way that friendship can hold you together through some serious fucking shit, and making sure that you have an outlet for things that you need to, because otherwise things can go tits up. So very, very interesting, just captivating, and holds a place in my heart because it's Buckman. Why wouldn't it? So this was that stack. I'm not gonna hold both stacks up. It's not possible. I don't have the upper body strength or the capabilities really in any way, shape or form. That was a marathon, but I've done it. I did it. So thank you so much to Amanda for encouraging, supporting, doing Augustathon with me, and having the absolute wild ride that was completing every readathon that we found by a particular point of filming our video. I did also throw a couple in at the end just because I had so much fun, and whilst Amanda is like, I can't wait to do this again next year, I'm so happy for you for that. My soul has vacated my body. So I am just ecstatic that I've managed to do the thing, read all the things, and now I can go put these books away. So let me know in the comments how your past 2 months of reading has gone. Please, I hope no one has the desire to hit this level of books, because I don't have the desire to hit this level of books again. I just want to read for the sake of reading and not for arbitrary purposes. She says that she's completing magical readathon and seasonathon, but that's okay. Let me know in the comments what your best read was or has been for this year or the past 2 months, if that is something that is applicable to you. I'd love to hear it in the comments down below. And if you like this video, feel free to give it a big thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more of this mess, feel free to subscribe. Hope to see you in my next video over on my Patreon. Bye!